Hi, greetings. My name is Molino Binyasiki. I'm a doctor at Equity Afya Kiambu. Today I'm trying to break down the information you need to know about STIs, and I'm not presenting exactly about different STIs. This is this. This is this. This is this. But what I think you need to know is you need to know how at risk you are, who is at risk and who is not at risk. That's very important, because before you know that you have Trichomonas vaginalis, you don't know how you got it. How did it come that now you are in the risk? Because most people, most of the time, they're surprised when we tell them you have this. They're surprised. The next question is normally how do you get that? How did it come? So there's that element of denial among us. So this presentation is logically going to deal with that, the denial element, and to learn to come out and meet the health workers, and to come out and begin being involved. When you're not involved, as if you're not, if you are not actively, if you don't know that you're involved, you might end up with any of these. But if you know that you're involved in preventing them, you will end up safe. So what are STIs? What are sexually transmitted infections? The most important phrase you need to know is close physical contact. They are sexually transmitted, but you can get them even if you didn't penetrate. How? Because you had close physical contact. That's the point. So these are disease processes that we get from close physical contact. Close physical contact. So they are transmitted. They're transmitted through sexual contact. But sexual, as in most people think, sex is the thing about penetration, the male organ, the female organ. But close physical contact is enough to transmit this. Because there are people who have sex and they don't penetrate. You female with female, male with male. They might not have penetrated, but they come with these STIs. So there was close physical contact. Now, to prove that, we are saying that STIs, they are not an element of denial. Why? Because they affect all people. All people are affected, whether you're a Christian or you're a Muslim or you're a Hindu, you are a pastor, you are a doctor. Everyone is affected. No title is above. So you shouldn't think, this one is a doctor. He doesn't have STIs. No, I have until you prove me otherwise. All people are affected by them. 2, can be prevented with. So we are looking at the objectives of this to tell you, to help you. The objective of this presentation is to help you affirm that all people can be affected. Everyone is at risk, and you should be careful about everyone. 2, they can be prevented. Objective number 2 is that they can be prevented. How? With proper education. There are people who are really trying, they're putting on condoms, they're doing this, but they lack proper education. They have ended up, so someone tells you, why? How? Someone is surprised because there is lack of proper education. And because of our lines in the hospitals, we may not have time to teach you. We shall tell you that you have Trichomonas vaginalis, but we might not teach you how comes you are at risk of it. So proper education. Number 3, they can be prevented with barrier control methods. So we're going to appreciate that they can be prevented. Now, how are we going to do this? We're going to use research, because most of the time people think about New York, US, Canada. No, we are in Kenya. So our clinic is in Kiambu. So we must find out the epidemiology in our areas. So the Kenya Medical Research Institute, because of the fact that only young people globally between the age of 15 and 24, I mean, mostly young people globally between the age of 15 and 24 have got sexually transmitted diseases. That means have got diseases, infections that are gotten through close physical contact. Most of them are young. So they decided to recruit, number one, the Kenya Medical Research Institute recruited, number one, HIV negative individuals. Number two, those who reported no sexual intercourse. Number three, they also included those who reported sexual intercourse with only one partner. Those who reported one partner, they are the ones they recruited. Now, this number, how many were they? There were 400 adolescent girls and young women. The total of that number was 400 adolescent girls and young women. Now we have adolescents, 15, and to 20s, and then young women, early 20s, 22, 24, 25. Those were recruited. Now, it turns out that 78 of these had only prior sex. 78 of the 400 had only prior sex with one partner. 322 had never had sex. Of the 400, 322 had never had sex. Then 78 had sex. So we're talking about low risk people. Those we think they have never had sex, so they don't have STIs. Now, what was the outcome of the research by the Kenya Medical Research Institute in 2020? The results were that among the 78 reporting prior sex with one partner, 20 of them had used contraceptives in 3 months, in the last 3 months. Contraceptives, these are methods that help in blocking conception, that help you not to conceive, that help a girl not to get pregnant. That among those 78, these ones, 20, because these 78 are the ones that had sex with one partner. Then 20 of them had used contraceptives. However, when they went further, that 60% of these had used contraceptives, the type called emergency contraceptive pills, meaning that to young girls, contraception has nothing to do with barrier. Young girls would like to live between the age of 15 to 24. So these ones, when they think about not getting pregnant, they think about pills. They don't think about condoms. Then number 3, 49 of these tested positive for STIs. The research found that among those that had sex with only one partner, these adolescent girls and young women, those who say they had sex with one partner, among them, 49 tested positive with STIs. So that is 13.1%. So this is a bigger number. Imagine 49 spread somewhere with STIs. You understand? So, and yet these are the people we think they don't have STIs. Now, which type of STIs did they come? These are the types of STI. They have 41 of them had chlamydia trachomatis, the type of bacteria. It's hard to see. It's not easy to see. I mean, the labs, most labs might not tell you that you have trachomatis, chlamydia trachomatis. Yeah. Number 2, we have 5 had Neisseria gonorrhea. 5 of the 49 had Neisseria gonorrhea. The STI, the sexually transmitted infection they had was Neisseria gonorrhea. Number 3 had Trichomonas vaginalis. So of the 49 adolescent girls and young women who had STIs, 33 said they didn't have sexual intercourse. In other words, they had contact, they had physical contact, and then they left. So they think they were safe, but they ended up with an STI. So the conclusion of the research was, which is our main emphasis, low-risk adolescent girls and young women are found to have high numbers of STIs. People will think they are young. Young women, there is a mentality that people who are young don't have. They have sexually transmitted infections. You shouldn't think you are safe with someone young. Especially, they had in Kenya, according to the Kenya Medical Research Institute, they had chlamydia, trachomatis, which is not easily screened, because for a hospital to screen this, it must have a PCR machine. They use DNA to screen Trachomona vaginalis, meaning that the fact that some hospitals don't have some screening tools contributes to a certain unknown bacteria being transmitted all over, because they have not recognized it, so they can't easily treat it. Number two, intervention should include those who do not self-identify as at risk. Even you who think you are not at risk, you should also take this seriously. Okay, so we come to the second part. The first part, we've proved beyond reasonable doubt, according to the Kenya Medical Research Institute, that adolescent young girls and young women have got STIs, and including those who think they have not penetrated. And then that has affirmed the fact that an STI does not necessarily mean you penetrated, but provided there was close physical contact, you'll get an STI. So secondly, we come to the second research to try to open our eyes about the risks. The first research, we dealt with the low risk, the adolescents from 15 to 24, the young women. So now we come to the high risk. Now this research was done by the National Library of Medicine. It is quite a distant, about 9 years back, 2015. The previous one we saw was 2020. It was recent. Now this one shows the prevalence of STIs among female sex workers. Girls as compared to females. How are the risks? How much are the risks? What are we talking about? Who has more STIs than the other? Because some people think they are safe. They think the others are at risk more than them. Now, the participants were all women 18 and above, 18 years and above. And all the participants were selling sex to a man at least once in 3 months. In the last 3 months, when they carried out this research, those participants they included all the women that had sold sex, had sex for money with the man in the last 3 months. Now, these were tested for HIV and STIs. They tested them for both HIV and STIs. Now, they found out that a total of 596 were eligible. This number 596 were 18 and above, had sex for money, and they found out, number one, the overall HIV prevalence was 29.5%. 29.5% of these had HIV. Number two, the duration of sex work was 12 years. They had been in this transaction of sex, this business of sex, for 12 years. Average, the average was 12. That is ranging from 8 to 17 years. Some had done it for 17 years. And you imagine selling sex for money, a female sex worker who has done that job for 17 years and has no HIV. This is what I want to spark your mind. That someone had done this job for 17 years, and in every 3 months, for 17 years, and still has no HIV. How can that be possible? Number 3, the frequent client-seeking venues. These people, the research found out that the frequent client-seeking venues, the venues where you get them were bars. 76% of these women, the 596, you can find them in bars. You understand? So you are most likely to find a sexual worker in a bar. Number 2, 29.3% would go to the roadsides. So it is not only the people who go to bars that are at risk, even those on the streets. 29.3% of these female sex workers would seek their clients from the what? From the roadsides. Number 4, the clients per week was 7. These sexual workers, the average client they would get per week was 7. So I just want you to imagine someone has been selling, has been giving sex for money for 17 years, and every week meets 7 people and is still HIV negative. Because we have said the prevalence was 29.5. Why? How comes that person doesn't have HIV, has 7 different men in a week, and has done that job for 17 years? Number 5, 86.6 have ever been tested for HIV. 86.6 of these 596 had gone for HIV, and of these, almost 63.1% had tested in the last 12 years. So this is showing you the practice of testing, that they are there, they are doing it, but they are testing. They are pushers. Probably that's one of the reasons we are finding that someone is doing is 17 years old in the business, but no HIV, because he's cautious. They're trying to take the precautions. So one of the precautions, one of the things will save you from HIV is testing often. So this data is implying that these sexual workers know that they must testing often. Number 6, of the HIV positive, 51.0% were aware of their infection. Yes, a good number. 51.0% is more than it's more than 300 of the 596 of these women 18 and above who give sex for money are aware of those who are HIV positive. They are aware that they are HIV positive. So now, what does that mean? What does this data imply according to this information? That unrecognized HIV infection independent association. These are the factors that were realized to be behind the reason why some people did not know. Because we say some of these, only 51 were aware. 51%, half of those who had HIV, half of the females who give sex for HIV, half of them knew, half did not. So the factors that were found, that were found to be paramount, to be associated with unrecognized HIV infection. Number 1, increasing age. What does it mean? As people grow, they think they have mastered the art of preventing sexually transmitted disease. As you grow, maybe you are 25, you are 29, you are 30, you are 40, you think, me, I've been HIV negative for 20 years. I'm an expert. That factor was found to be directly associated with unrecognized HIV. You are surprised. The person is surprised that, you have gonorrhea. because the person thinks he has mastered the art of preventing STIs. You are surprised, oh, you have trichomonas vaginalis, because the person thinks has mastered. So many of these prostitutes, the females who give sex for money, thought they had mastered the art of preventing HIV. And then they were surprised that they were HIV positive. Number 2, inconsistent condom use with paying clients. Most of them get used to some clients who pay money. They get used to them. So today they are using condom, tomorrow they don't use. Like that, inconsistent, on and off, on and off, on and off. So they were surprised to have HIV. Number 3, use of a male condom as a method of contraception. The use of a male condom was also directly associated, was found to be significant. That there's a decrease in, these females are expected to be prepared with female condoms, but they depend only on what? On male condoms. So the researchers, we shall see, it recommended a combination of method, not only one method. When you test, you use a condom. Use a condom and test, So because you think you're using a condom, you may be surprised. Now, what was the prevalence of STIs? We have seen other STIs. We have seen HIV was 29.5% of them had. Syphilis was 0.9% of them. That means more than 10 had syphilis. 1.1 gonorrhea, and 31.1% chlamydia. Remember, even the young girls, the adolescent young girls, we saw that chlamydia was at a higher rate. So probably this is the most prevalent STI in Nairobi and Kenya generally. So the conclusions were high. There is a high prevalence of HIV among female sexual workers in Nairobi. It's high. The prevalence is high. 2, we should increase HIV and STI prevention strategies. You as an individual, you should increase your strategies. If your strategy was a condom, you should begin to ask for testing. Combination. You understand? Scaling HIV and STI prevention strategies. This is what this data implies, because some females who had been using condoms were found to have HIV, and they were unaware of it. Okay, so we've said that the 2 research we've looked at, the one among adolescent girls and young women, and the one among female sexual workers, proved to us beyond reasonable doubt that everyone is at risk. The people you think are not at risk, don't have the STI they have. Yes, because even the young, 15 and above, have got the STIs, as we saw according to the Kenya Medical Research Institute's report. And then the second research showed us that for the female sexual workers, some of them, 50% know. Those who have HIV, 50% know, and 50% don't know. And then we also saw the reasons why those who don't know. We said that it's because as age increases, people tend to relax. They think they are experts. I've been in the game for 20 years. I'm not without HIV. And then she ends up with HIV. We also saw inconsistent condom use with clients who pay. You might get used to a person, so you think you are safe because you have gotten used to that person. So we said you need not to compromise because the person has been your boyfriend for many years, so you don't have an STI. No, that's not the point not to test. So now we also saw that a big number of them got HIV, although they were using condoms. And the conclusion, according to the research published by the National Library of Medicine, was that there is need to scale the use of combination methods, combined methods to treat, to prevent. And we show that if you're using a condom, if you've been using a condom, then you need to add in other methods. You need to add in testing. You need to test often. That's a good method you are putting. And we also saw that the prostitutes, we realized that the venues where they go for their client, about 80% reported bars and 26% reported the roadside. So you need to be careful whenever you are in those venues. You know, when you reduce your frequency to those venues, the bars, you're reducing your risks of STIs. Yes, people don't associate them, but actually they are related. That's what the research said. They are independent associations, factors that are independent on their own. When someone frequents the night bars, the chances of STIs increases. And then we also say that even on the roadsides, those prostitutes say they get clients there. So even those at the roadside are not safe. Yes, so you shouldn't think that, oh, this one I found her on the street. There's no need to use the condom. There's no need to test. You are at risk, although you didn't get that person from a bar. Now we're saying, how do we reduce? What is this? What are some of these methods we're talking about as we people? Now, all from the research we're saying, using medicines to treat HIV. You have to scale up. If you have been using a condom alone, you have to learn to using medicines to treat STIs. Here, where the research was on the research they published by the National Library of Medicine, they zeroed on HIV as one of the STIs, and so one of the combination methods is you have to learn to use medicine to treat. That's if you get. When you get. Number two, using medicines to prevent. We can use methods to prevent. You know, some people are aware only about condoms. No, we can also use medicines to prevent. Yes, we have drugs. There are drugs. There is pre-exposure prophylaxis. Before you go into the act, you can be given some drugs. And there is also post-exposure prophylaxis. If you think you are not safe, although you used the condom, but you think that you didn't test that guy, you think you are not safe, you can come to the facility and we give you drugs. Using condoms, some people are not, have never used. We have them. We have condoms. Every hospital has a condom. I mean, they are condoms, free condoms. They are usually placed in places of convenience. When you're going to the washrooms, the bathrooms, the toilets, you'll see them somewhere in a private place. Then the other one, having only low-risk sex partners, of course. Low-risk sex, only having partner with the same HIV status. Scale up. You've been using a condom, yes, but now you don't know their status. So only have sex with them if your HIV status with them is the same. If your STI status with them is the same, you test before the act. That means you have scaled up. Combining prevention strategies may be even more effective. When you combine, it will be more effective. Not having sex can effectively reduce risks. It still remains the fact that if you don't have sex, your chances have reduced. It still remains a fact as far as STI are concerned. But in order for any of these methods to work, you must always be correct and consistent. We saw that in one of the research papers, the female sexual workers, they were not consistent. At one time they used condoms, at one time they don't use a condom. So they ended up with STIs. They ended up with HIV and others. And then we are looking at the biomedical interventions offered These are offered in the hospital. These are the methods you can scale up with regular HIV or STI testing. You come walk in on your own and we test you. We see whether you have chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, or trichomonas. Come in. 2, risk reduction counseling. We do risk reduction counseling. You don't know how to reduce your risk. You know, you are a girl, you have 3 boyfriends, you have 4 boyfriends. You come, we can give you risk reduction counseling. This one is offered in the hospital setting. You can get it. Number 3, latex condoms. You know, you don't know how to use them. We can teach you how to use them. Number 4, post-exposure chemotherapy. Chemoprophylaxis and treatment. If you think you were with someone and you were exposed, you shouldn't die like that. You come, run, whether it's 1 day or 2 days, come. Don't fail to come. The day you think you were at risk, you come. We can give you drugs that may reduce that may have to deal with that risk. Then finally, we are saying there are 8 most common STIs. 4 of them curable and 4 of them non-curable. Among the curable, we have chlamydia. They are curable. Don't sit down. If they say you have chlamydia, you're not going to die. They are curable. Gonorrhea is curable. Syphilis, curable. Trichomonas vaginalis is curable. So if you have a discharge, it can be stopped. Drugs can be given. 4, treatable but not curable. You can treat. Don't just sit there. Hepatitis B is a sexually transmitted infection and it can be treatable. You're not going to die. We can treat it. You won't cure, but we shall treat it. Herpes simplex virus is treatable. HIV is treatable. When you get HIV, doesn't mean you're going to die. That's the end of you. No, it's not the end of you. It is treatable. It might not cure, but you can treat it. And hemolytic virus, we can treat it. So we have said that we need to know that we are at high risk, all of us, and we need to scale up on how we prevent the sexually transmitted diseases. If you have any questions on this, you can always meet me. You can always come to Equity Afia. Personally, you can meet me at Equity Afia Kiambu and Pongezi Plaza, just next to Clean Chef. Thank you.